Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Factorio Bob's Angels. So we start off with a nice view of the big red blob, and we start sort of just having a look around on the map. One thing I've noticed is I can't see any rubite on the map at the moment yet. There is some bobmonium, but we have both rubite and bobmonium still back in the starting area, so that's going to be an issue for some time in the future. Future me can deal with that. It's not a problem for me right now. All I'm concerned with is this commentary. So, a bit of an odd episode. I wanted to try and continue with my efforts with Saphirite because I want to get it over and done with. But we start having power issues again, and it looks like we're in a perpetual loop that's getting smaller and smaller, where we're not getting enough coal through. Then we run out of power, which means we can't mine the coal. Then the coal that comes through isn't mining enough to get some more, and I'm a bit fed up with it. One solution would be to increase the coal mining. That would increase the pollution cloud, so it's not really an option. But I don't really deal with that straight away. I think, screw it, I'm going to ignore it. I send the train up to deliver some coal, but I think, no, I want to work on Saphirite. I'm extremely determined at the start of this episode. We also get attacked down in the south. Now, in between episodes, I thought I'd dealt with this. I thought I'd gone down there, I'd upgraded it, but me being down there has triggered attacks once I've left. So the only solution to that is to go back, fix it, and increase the defenses more. So I start to head back, and then I think, no, there's one thing I want to do before I leave, is stick a Mark III, I believe, radar up here. So I come up, fix the power. If our power problems weren't bad enough, we've just added even more usage. Because I want to scan the local area there. I'm not putting in permanent defences until I have a good idea of the geographical layout. That's one way to say it. So once I place that, I then head all the way back down to where I was just before I started recording. I come a really stupid way. If a train comes, I'm screwed. The coal train is currently unloading, and I believe, yeah, there it goes. It's just gone past, so could have been a bit unlucky there. I haven't died yet, but we'll see. If I do, I'm going to leave it in. Not going to try and cut it out or anything. And yeah, I thought I'd sorted all this out, but clearly they got attacked quite a lot from my previous visit. So I upgraded a few turrets. I'm reluctant to, though, because I have a shortage of turrets, which is getting worse. The more defenses I'm having to put down, I feel like this is a perpetual loop that's going to leave me in a stalemate. But, you know, I'm determined. So, to begin with, I put down some Mark IIs, and then I think, no, I'll just put down some extra Mark 1s. They're a bit cheaper to make. And I get out of there as quickly as possible, because the longer I hang around, the more attacks I'm going to trigger. Hopefully they only have to deal with a couple of attacks while I'm away, and then it gets left alone. There is some pollution getting over there from the Javolite, which is what is deteriorating those defences. So, at some point, I need to find a solution for that. But there's plenty of other solutions I need to find, so I don't worry about it for now. So I come back and look at grabbing some resources and crash into a pipe in the process, because I want to look at getting some solar set up. We have the most basic solar panels and accumulators available, so they're not the best, but they are available. So with the extremely low amount of resources I have available, there is a bit more coming through. This is just due to the low power, which is why the bus is looking so empty. But yeah, I spend the first half of the episode setting up a pretty small and crappy excuse for solar, but anything's better than nothing. If I can at least give the steam a little break in the day, we might be able to stockpile a bit of coal to deal with it in the night. But I do like solar. It's free energy. It's a one-off cost of having to build the solar panels and accumulators. So it's not like I'm going to be building these forever. I mean, I'm going to be building them, a lot of them. If I can at least match half the power production that steam has, then we can at least save it a bit of time to stockpile some coal. So I come back to the factory to gather some more resources. To begin with, I'm thinking I should probably do this manually. Putting it in automated is going to add to power consumption because of the bots, because I like having bots produce this kind of item. In fact, yeah, you know, most of these kind of end products will be done by bots. And I think putting that in is a bit excessive, but in a little bit I do automate it and put a cap of 1 stack on, which will be produced fairly quickly but I want the resources to primarily go to turret production. We get another attack down in the southwest from our visit down there, but I ignore it because going down there is just going to trigger more attacks. If it can deal with it on its own, then eventually the attacks will subside, and it'll only have to deal with small pollution attacks coming from across the lake. So I gather various resources, accidentally picking up a lot of things that I don't want, like some silicon wafers, which I put into the circuit production, and we hoover up some materials to also make some accumulators, because if power can get to a good point, then accumulators will be kind of handy as well. So I continue to produce them manually. I get quite a decent number on the way, but we have to wait for them to be manually created, which is a bit frustrating. It would be nice to just be able to come down, grab a stack of each, throw them out, and we can gradually get to a point where we're not having to worry so much about power. And the benefit of moving to solar as well means that pollution cloud around the steam engines will reduce drastically, because once solar and accumulator have reached a certain level, I'm going to put in a few power switches into the steam and have a few tiers. So tier 1 will say turn on 2 rows of steam engines. If the accumulator gets below 80%, then another 2 rows at 60, and then anything below 40, I'll have quite a considerable number of steam engines, because for it to drop that low means there's something severely wrong, and we're going to need a lot more than just a handful of row of steam engines. I'm also tempted to move the steam engines to either north or even east of the lake later on, to give us more room where the station and ore sorting area is going to be. I have a good idea of what I'm doing for the station now. I've done it on a test map in the sandbox free play bit. Quite happy with that, so I'm ready to build that now. It's a little bit weird. I've never done anything like it before, but it's going to be unloading using only belts, but kind of has the benefits of bot unloading, with a small potential of maybe being a bit weird, but I think I'll be able to balance it, and we'll see in testing, because I've only tested it to some degree on my test server. I couldn't be bothered to fully overload it with resources, but there'll be circuit conditions in the station to send trains to the next depot along if that one's too busy filtering stuff out. So now we set up the automation of solar panels and accumulators just to produce while we're away. And also thanks to Thundergun for giving me advice on how to do the circuit network for sending a train from a depot when that relevant ore is required. The only thing is, in his advice, he does say to use a constant combinator, sending out a negative value for how much ore you want at the base. But in a little test I've set up, I thought I could just connect up all the warehouses that store the ore, sends that signal for all the ores down the rail network, and then at each station you just set the exiting signal to say if there's less than this ore in the signal, then send the train for that particular ore. I would like to know what the benefit of having the combinator is, because if it's better off having it, then I'll do it that way. I've just not used them very much. I don't really understand them completely. I've only ever put one down once or twice and had a brief look at it. But I did do a test just using 6 chests all connected up with a red wire, sending the signal of what ores are in each chest, and then I set a signal up saying if there's less than this number of this ore, enable, and it appeared to work. It was a very small test. It didn't actually involve trains. It was just a little layout with the wires set up. So yeah, it'd be good to learn what the benefit of the combinator is, because if it's better to do it that way, then I will. So the defences down near the coal are starting to break a little bit. There's a new base there where some turrets used to be, and we are getting some attacks down there due to the pollution. But I'm reluctant to solve the power issue by increasing coal mining, because it's just going to exacerbate the pollution there. So if we can increase solar enough to take up at least half of Steam's job or more, we could put in this circuit network and say only send a coal train if there's less than this amount of coal, and then that coal mining pollution cloud will start to dissipate. And that's one way of solving that problem without having to do biter killing, which I'm getting pretty sick of. But it is a necessity, and it's going to be a large aspect of this playthrough. I have decided to go for a death world with rampant AI and Bob's Warfare. I'm not going back on that decision. It just means a lot of the episodes, until we get well established, are going to be killing biters. So if you guys enjoy watching that, then that's great. And I'll continue to kill the biters, regardless of how tedious it gets for me. So we come up and we start dealing with bases that I need to get rid of to build some temporary defenses around the sapphirite to stop biters from setting up new nests. These are going to be pretty crappy defenses, but as long as I don't go near them, we shouldn't trigger any attacks. And we'll try and keep the sapphirite pollution cloud to a minimum, because once sapphirite's coming in a small amount, it won't be as much as Javolite's coming in, I can then deal with Crotinium. Is it Crotinium? Crutonium? Oh god, I really need to properly look that up. I think I keep doing it every time I play the game, and then I just say it and it just sounds weird. Anyway, the white ore, and then we'll get the station sorted. We'll get each of the 6 ores coming in. We'll obviously mine the bobmonium and rubite in the starting area first before I bother to go and search those out, because yeah, I want to get on with the base. I want to get that flowing, and with more resources we can better defend ourselves from these pollution attacks. So start by putting out a pretty crappy line, but I rush into it. It's too early. I need to let the bases around me calm down a bit from my slaying, and the bases start sending out more biters due to my attacks, and they kind of go the wrong way. They should run at me really, and they go and throw themselves at that wall, and they get far too many biters for them to be able to deal with, and it pretty much gets almost entirely wiped out, which is a massive waste of resources. I've gone and thrown all that away, which I got really frustrated about. I should have waited. I should have pushed up some more here and then put that in right at the last minute when I was leaving. I'm now thinking I might do it differently. I'll probably do it like we do down in the south and have groups of sniper turrets like this that are able to deal with themselves, and then have them so that their ranges sort of cross over a little bit. So any biters that try to go between will get shot, and hopefully they'll retreat and not be able to squeak through. And if they do squeak through, I'll be able to see it on the radar, and I can come and deal with any bases they set up. So I take down most of the defenses, and I just leave a little group near the lake, which is where they're most likely to sort of crawl around from. And we come up and carry on clearing. So yeah, I'll go about this a bit differently. I'll put out a load of turrets, and no, sorry, I won't put out a load of turrets. I'll manually clear all the groups I need to clear, wait for them all to calm down in a bit, put in some patches when I have more turrets, because of course I've just thrown most of them away, and I don't want to do it with my Mark IIs. That's what I'm using to defend myself. We just have a quick check of the power there. But yeah, so I'm going to need to build up a nice stockpile of turrets. In the meantime, while that's building up, we can just clear these bases around the sapphirite. And the further we clear them, the better, really, because then we can mine more sapphirite. It's just the only problem with this area is it's all desert, which has virtually no pollution absorbing properties, so it's going to spread pretty far. It's going to be a bit frustrating. But it is a nice big sapphirite patch. We are going to get a lot of sapphirite from it. So for a while there, I was trying to deal with patches of biters being sent out to hunt me, thinking that they'll stop after a little while, but they just keep coming. So in the end, I leave all the Mark II turrets out, and I head back down, hoping that it can defend itself and I don't lose my precious stockpile of Mark II turrets, because that's all I have at the moment, and we're not producing very many at the moment due to my crazy idea to build some solar panels. I know it's going to slow everything down even more, but once we've got enough to at least give Steam a little break in the day, I'll let it cap out and it'll stop producing, and everything will go back to 100% to going into turrets and ammunition. Then when sapphirite and crotinium are coming through, both those things should produce at a much greater rate, and we'll be out of this stalemate. I promise it's only going to be a couple more episodes. I do apologise if it is getting a bit dull, being stuck in this horrible situation where nothing's really going on apart from me just killing stuff and patching up crappy defences. But yeah, a couple more episodes and I think we're good. Next episode, I'm going to look at dealing with the red blob. It's making me very nervous. I want to push out to that little bottleneck down there so to get it out of the pollution. So yeah, it is pretty dangerous. I mean, I first assumed that if I approach the cloud, it's all going to launch at me and come at me at once. But I've been talking to someone who had exactly the same thing. In fact, theirs got so big, his machine couldn't handle it, and it went so slow, he could barely approach it and attack it. So I've decided I need to deal with that. I don't want it to put an end to the series, and I don't want to do some wacky map editing where I just delete it. So that should be quite an interesting video. I don't know how much it's going to slow down. Hopefully my machine can handle it. It's definitely going to smell like burning though while it's doing it. So yeah, we're going to do that next episode, but that does mean in between episodes I am going to have to give the base at least 10-15 minutes to buffer, just so that I have enough to actually deal with it. Because the main problem there is going to be ammunition. We're just going to churn through a hell of a lot of ammunition, but with sniper turrets apparently they won't be able to attack me, which is a bit unfair, but it is a bit of a bug of the game at the same time. So, you know, we could work out the unfairness. So I nearly get run over up at the temporary depot, but it wasn't really like that at normal speed. It just looks like that at full speed. So I do come down and add a couple of miners just to try and increase this a little bit, because power is being very frustrating. And I also wanted to work out if I place a Mark II miner on some normal coal and not the infinite patch, does it work the same way as oil? And yes, it does, because there's two Mark II miners up there on the infinite bit, and they're not getting anywhere near as much as these ones down here on a normal bit. So the infinite bits only give so much. So those Mark II miners look like they're working at full speed and aren't producing the amount of coal relevant to the amount of energy they're using and pollution they're creating. So what I think I should really do is replace all the infinite ore with normal level miners, because it's not coming out any faster and we're just producing more pollution and using more energy. If anyone has any more information on that, that would be great to hear. I might go and look it up as well, because we're just wasting pollution and energy. So yeah, if that's the correct way to go, I'll downgrade those to probably the most basic value of miners. I might do a little bit of testing if I can't find any info on it, but there's no point putting a Mark II miner on if it's not going to give me any benefit and it's only going to give me downsides, because our greatest power consumption at the moment is Mark II miners because of all the ones on the Jivolite patch. Or are they Mark III now? I can't remember where we're at. And that's another place we can cut down on miners if that's the case, is Jivolite, because currently they're covered in the highest available tier of miners, and they're what's causing constant attacks down in the south. And I think it's also a large aspect of what's feeding the big red blob. And we don't want the big red blob coming back again, because it is a nice sight to see, but it's not very helpful, and it's not really in the game mechanics. So now we've got automated production of solar panels set up. You can come up and grab a nice stack each time and just keep adding to it. And this patch does, once I've finished placing it out, match about half of what Steam is capable of producing. So maybe at the end of next episode, I'll put another couple of stacks out, and I can put in the tiered switch for the Steam. Maybe we can convert to solar completely in 3 or 4 episodes. I was surprised how well this was actually doing compared to what I thought I would need to put out to deal with the base. But putting out twice the number of panels we have so far shouldn't be too difficult. It just takes a little bit of time for resources to come through, because this is producing some pollution, but the worst pollution is from miners down in the south. So that's going to be all we have time for this episode. I'm out of enough turrets to push. I need ammunition. I need to let that buffering happen to do next episode. So there's not really much I can do this episode without waiting. We get a nice good look at power consumption at the moment, because we filled up those accumulators. It is going dark now, but a moment ago we were producing nearly half of what Steam is capable of. But yeah, I do hope you have enjoyed. It's going to be a big red blob episode next time. But thank you so much for watching. Hopefully see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.